Hi, welcome everyone to this ETRise webinar on how to sell to the world. So we're basically talking about how do you sell in the international market. Uh, this can be anything from one product to say, bigger consignments. Uh, while India itself is a large market, what the global markets can provide you is a uh, far bigger in terms of business. The scope is also far larger, but the nitty-gritties involved is also different. We have with us today Rajive Chawla. He's the chairman and the founder of JaiRaj Group and IamSME of India, who will first run us through a presentation that he has. Followed by, we'll take some live questions from you guys, and hopefully we answer many of your queries and help you become exporters. Mr. Chawla, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pran. Good afternoon, all the viewers from across India and maybe some of you from outside India as well. It's heartening to be here with ETRise this afternoon and to talk to you about exports, how to sell the world, in fact, how to gear up for the international markets. And friends, I must tell you that export, and I always say, is extremely important, not only for any individual business or any individual person in business, but for the entire nation. Every state, every city, every country takes pride in the fact that their products or services are required by the world. So I always say that exports, in fact, are the pride of a nation's economy. And it shows and highlights its relevance to the world, how your products or your services are honored by the world and they're required by the world. And people demand that your products and services be sent to them. So the world wants to buy from you. So there's a huge sense of pride. And of course, a lot of opportunities also in this, because suddenly then your market is not confined only to domestic markets. We are very fortunate that in India we have a large domestic market as well. We are a country with 1.3 billion people, and I say we are a country with 1.3 billion opportunities, therefore. So it's a country which is developing, and it's a country which is growing very fast, and therefore we find a lot of domestic opportunities as well. But just imagine those countries which are very small in size, with handful of population just the fraction of one Lajpat Nagar in Delhi or one defense colony in Delhi. And such countries are exporting even more than a country like India. So there are countries where over the past many years and decades, they have an edge, they have an advantage in in terms of their reach to the world, because of their technologies, because of their patents, because of what they do. And so some of those nations are they hold monopolies to their products and services. And therefore, it is upon you and me, it is upon us to make a mark in India and to take India to the world. And therefore, this program today. Why export? I mean, one of course could be you and I, businesses, small businesses. We want to find markets. We want to develop our businesses. We want to earn money, and we want to make a mark as an entrepreneur. We want to be more successful. Existing businesses can get more number of customers, so they can scale up. They are, and they can do much better. But even more than that, I think you and I and every entrepreneur in India, every startup in India, and every wannabe in India should be looking at exports. The reason is that till date, we are deprived of hard currency. And what is hard currency? A currency which is acceptable globally. Our Indian rupee is not accepted globally. I cannot go to US and pay in Indian rupee and try to buy something. On the other hand, a US citizen can come to India, pay in dollars and buy anything. So there are some currencies which are globally acceptable, while our Indian rupee is not globally acceptable. And therefore, it is extremely important for a nation like us to understand the relevance of exports, because the more we export to the world, the more strong rupee that we make together, you and I, the more acceptable this will be to the world. Everything that we buy from anywhere outside India, India has to pay in terms in dollars or in hard currency, in euros, while uh, we ourselves export lesser than what we import. And therefore, this balance of payment difference is growing year after year. Because every year, India buys more and sells less to the world. And therefore, every entrepreneur in this country must focus on exports. Each one of us must try to earn more and more hard currency for India, so that our balance of payment position improves. And if that improves, Indian rupee would be much more stronger, and country as a nation would be much more better. Friends, there are four things which are actually changing the landscape of the world, especially in terms of business. In fact, these are the four major disruptions in the world of business. The first is globalization. Globalization means that geography today is history. So there are no geographical boundaries. You can buy from anywhere in the world, you can sell to anywhere in the world. And therefore, your immediate competition is not only with your supplier next door, you are also competing with China or Korea, or from where I have the option to buy, or a consumer has the option to buy. And therefore, it is also an opportunity, because if you're strong and if you're good, perhaps you can also sell in those countries. Second is technology. Technology has been a game changer. In fact, it's a leveler. It's given a level playing field to everyone. Any company, large or small, or a startup. You can start your own e-commerce platform, you can build your own websites, you can reach out to the world. So technology has ensured depth of distance. And today's youth, the next generation youth, is all about technology. And therefore, I believe that this is the time that India as a nation would grow manyfold in terms of its exports, because more and more youth, more and more number of entrepreneurs are using technology now, and therefore, the decade is of improvement and growth of Indian exports. Third important thing is sustainability. Every passing day, environment is becoming extremely important, and therefore every business has to be sustainable. We cannot ignore environment, or we cannot damage environment. In fact, many foreign buyers would not even touch a product if that is spoiling the environment anywhere. So therefore, sustainability is call of the day. People are willing to pay even better prices for a green product, or a product that is organic in nature. And fourth important thing is scalability. Whatever you are doing, at whatever scale you are doing today, if you are not growing or if you are not multiplying, it means your end is coming nearer and closer. And therefore, scalability of any business idea, scalability of any present business is extremely important to ensure that the business survives and moves on generation to generation. Let me tell you, if you look at the story of some of the best companies in the world, you will find that those companies are in their third generation or fourth generation. So a business, if it can scale up, and if it can move from one generation to another, it would create world-class companies. You can look at the stories of some of the Fortune 100 or Fortune 300 companies, and you'll find that many of those are family companies that have traversed through time, and where they've handled from one generation to another. And therefore, ask yourself 4 questions. If you are in business, ask yourself these 4 questions. If you are a startup and you're thinking about starting any export business, again, ask yourself these 4 questions. First, are you global? And if not, why not? What can you do to become global? And the answer to which, of course, is exports. Second is, are you using technology? If not, why not? And the day you you think about using technology and invest your time and energy in this, you will reap huge benefits, again, in terms of international marketing. Third is sustainability. And fourth, of course, is, do you focus on scaling up? And if the answer is yes, it means you are focusing on international marketing and exports. And perhaps this is the reason why you are here today attending this webinar and why I am here today on this ETRise program. So we decide that we all want to export, and we all want to export worldwide. But friends, the will to win means nothing without the will to prepare. The fact that we want to be an exporter, or we want to export, we wish to export, could be one dream. But we have to prepare ourselves to realize this dream. And over the next few minutes, let's see what kind of preparation is that is required for you and I, so that we become successful exporters and entrepreneurs in the global markets. So therefore, we need a plan, we need to prepare, and then we need to perform. So it's a 3-step simple process. We have to plan, we have to prepare ourselves, and then we have to perform. By the definition, let's see how exports in India are actually governed and under which law. And so here's the definition that I've brought to you from the government of India. And it says that India's foreign trades, that is exports and imports, are regulated by the foreign trade policy notified by the central government under section, as it's mentioned there. The last foreign trade policy was announced in 2015. This policy is for 5 years, so this policy would last till 2020. And it is under this policy that all the procedures, all the documentation, and all the incentives are governed. Fortunately, again, for India, we've been growing in our exports for a long, long time. In fact, if we compare exports of the year 2018-19 with the previous year, that is 17-18, we see a growth of almost 9%. India's exports globally were about $303 billion in 17-18, and this increased to $331 billion by 31st of March 2019. So India has seen phenomenal 9% growth last year in terms of if compared with the previous year. On an average, if we say, and we have this data from the year 1957. So 1957 till 2019, India has on an average exported about $5,520 million worth of exports every year. So that is $5,520 million year after year. The highest exports, of course, were last year, as we saw in March. That was $32,500 million in March 2019, the highest export this country has seen in its history. And the record low, and that also I've got for your reference, the record low was in June 1958, when we had exported just about $59 million worth of goods and services. Let's look at the sectors, the top 10 sectors where India exports. The first, of course, is minerals. This includes fuel, oil that India exports to the world after refining. The second very important area is gems and precious metals. And you can include gems and jewelry sector in this, because India polishes the diamonds of the world. In fact, they say that 9 out of 10 diamonds are polished in India. So they have to come to India for polishing. And Surat, Gujarat, is one city which takes pride of the fact that it's polishing the diamonds of the world. Then, of course, machinery, vehicles, automobiles, commercial vehicles, organic chemicals, pharmaceutical. We have a major presence. We export almost 14.3 billion worth of pharmaceuticals to the world. Electrical machinery, equipment, iron and steel, cotton, we export to the world. And then garments, clothing, accessories, that also has a major share. And if you can see in the brackets that come ahead, you will find that these are the percentage increase that India is seeing year after year in these 10 top sectors. Here's another slide that I have for you, and this shows how we are growing in terms of various exports, how different sectors are doing. For example, you can see the jewelry we saw, now we were down by just about 3%, while rice we grew by 4.5%. Car exports increased by 8.9% this year. Automobile parts and accessories, and India is very strong in automobile parts and accessory exports. So these have increased to $15.3 billion, about 15.3%. And so likewise, you can see various sectors. The idea is to tell you that India's exports are increasing and increasing in various sectors, from minerals, petroleum, diamond, jewelry, rice, automobile, pharmaceutical, everywhere. Top 10 companies of India that are exporting. And this is only to highlight that the best blue chip companies that you and I talk about, or you and I dream of, that we ever can be. So these are the top 10 companies, and they are focused on exports. And from Reliance Industries to ONGC to Indian Oil, Tata Motors, Tata Steel, Hindalco, Coal India, Steel Authority of India, Bharat Petroleum, Mahindra and Mahindra. So all of these are focused on exports, and these are the top 10 exporting countries in India. So it is extremely prestigious for a country for a company also to export, and of course for the entire nation that takes pride. This is a graph that covers export growth from the year 2003 to 2015, and as you can see that 2003-4 India exported almost 1,331 billion worth of goods and services, and while by the year 2015 these increased to 5,511. So year after year, even though we've seen some stagnant phases from the year 2005 to 2009, but then after 2009-10, you can see that there has been remarkable jump, except for 1 year, 2012 to 13, where the growth was flat. But even then, we have, in terms of number, we've always consistently improved our export performance. This slide tells you about the IT and IT-enabled services, and because services are also exported. It's not only goods or merchandise that you can export. India is a major exporter of services to the world, and IT is one service that India takes pride in the fact that it provides to the world. So you can see, in fact, a major share of services in IT and ITES are actually exported. And as you can see that, let's say 2017-18, in $151 billion, you can see that India has exported almost 126. This is very, very important. Some opportunities for SMEs now, for startups and SMEs. How you and I, because it's difficult for us to enter pharma or to enter minerals, but let's see what we can do. So handicrafts, meat exports, organic foods and supplements, Ayurveda and homeopathic medicines, dairy products, gems, jewelry, precious stones, artificial jewelry that is included in this, leather and leather products, ceramics. This includes tiles. This includes cups and saucers and plates and kitchenware, clothes, garments, fashion wear, Indian ethos. Now this is important. For example, there are so many Indians now settled globally that they're getting married, so they want wedding cards done, they want Indian gifts, they want Indian wear, ethnic wear to wear in those functions and programs. So there's a huge demand of such services and products from India. Spices, Indian spices are globally required. Henna, India is the largest exporter of henna to the world. Rice, basmati rice, non-basmati rice, agri products, jams, pickles. So friends, there's a huge market where youngsters, startups with even lesser investment in hand can actually look at exports and start exporting to the world. But the point is, which is the right choice? There are so many things that come to our mind, that come to your mind, and then of course you have to see which is the right choice for yourself. And for this, I'll ask you one thing. What is your unfair advantage? Every entrepreneur must first look inward and say, this is my SWOT, this is my strength, this is my weakness, this is the opportunity, and this is the threat. So you have to identify what is your unfair advantage. Perhaps you are close to a city where there are a lot of brassware which is made. Perhaps you live in a city or you have access to a city where a lot of silk and silk products are done or Banarsi saris are made. So you have to identify your area of interest. What do you excel at? What is the access that you have to the market that produces around you? And treat it like an unfair advantage that you have and see if you can build upon this advantage and build a growth map for yourself. How to start exports? Now, first, of course, step would be registrations. But even before registration, I would say the first step is decide what you'll export, because that is very important. You want to be in garments, you want to be in handicrafts, you want to be in artificial jewelry, precious jewelry, semi-precious jewelry. You have to decide what you want to do. Second step would be find where. You have to explore. Suppose you want to export artificial jewelry, then you have to explore where in the world you want to explore. And then you also have to study what they will like as per their tastes and their culture. You cannot, for example, export what you like in Rajasthan or in Delhi, a typical Punjabi wedding, the jewelry that we wear, maybe that jewelry does not find market in Italy or in a European market. So you have to understand the tastes of the market. And for that, you have to explore and you also need to consult with various people. Set up your business, give it a name, create a logo, create a trademark, go for copyright, register with this trademark so that your trademark and your logo or your name is not misused in the market. Get a PAN. And this is important because this is important for any business that you do in India. You must have a PAN card. Create a constitution for your business, whether you want to be a proprietary business, you want to do partnership with someone, set up a partnership firm, or you can set up an LLP, or you want to set up a private limited business. So give your business a constitution. And as per that constitution, then you have to register your company, open a bank account, and give those documents along with the PAN. IEC is extremely important and mandatory for every exporter. This is called Import-Export Code, IEC. Friends, it is once in a lifetime that you have to take, almost like PAN. So once you set up a business, you must have IEC code. Only then you can start exporting. Only once if you take this number, this is lifelong. And the documents required to open IEC code is PAN card, your applicant's photograph, a cancelled check of the bank account of the business because you have to open a bank account, and just about 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees as application fee. You can do it yourself online, and I've given the link there, the DGFT website where you can apply yourself, or you can take the help of a chartered accountant or an export consultant, which is always better because then you don't face hindrances and then you get specialized help and consultancy. And it's always better to consult because then you will be able to travel your journey much faster and focus on core areas of procurement and sales rather than nitty-gritties of documentations and registrations. The next step would be now how to
create a network. Where to sell? So you need to join groups. You need to travel sometimes, participate in some exhibitions, join some portals. Alibaba.com, Amazon, there's so many portals that are around, where you can post your products, you can reach out there. You must have, in fact, your website if possible, and as soon as possible. But even if you create a website, the world doesn't know about your website as of now. So you must always be part of some e-commerce portal somewhere, and where you can start immediately, because these are ready-made options. And overnight you can start. If you say tomorrow you want to sell this, next morning you can perhaps book a place in Amazon.com and start selling that. Reach out to experts, identify some experts and consultants. And there are also many institutions and organizations that help you in consultancy. Price negotiations are extremely important. At what price? Remember, you don't have to quote in Indian rupee, and you also have to do the costing of the freight and the cartage and the travel costs if you're bearing those costs in export. So costing is extremely important, and I would always say that you must consult someone right who can help you include and cover your logistic costs well. So price settlement orders are important. You have to cover your risk, and I'll talk about this later in another slide. And ninth, of course, is keep yourself updated, because laws keep changing every day. The laws of the importing nation, the laws of your own country, and the products, the different technologies that are coming up. So you have to update yourself every passing day so that you remain abreast with the world. There are certain compliances for exports. For example, certificate of origin is often asked by importing companies, because the world demands certificate of origin. Certain nations have bar on buying from other nations. So products from those nations cannot go to some nations. So you have to give your certificate of origin at times, and there are different institutions that can issue or certify this for you. Quality certification and standards of the buying nation are very important. What you sell in India may not necessarily be acceptable to Europe or to US. They may have different quality standards and even the government standards. Their governments also sometimes quarantine, and they do not allow feeding goods in their countries as per their standards. So therefore, their materials have specifications. What is the lead content they allow in for example, a toy? That is extremely important. Otherwise, we've seen huge fiascos where countries have suddenly banned imports from some toys and milk and other products from some nations, and with huge losses to such sellers. E-commerce, and I talked about this earlier, this is the next generation's biggest technology advantage. It is so easy today to export that you just have to, it takes a few hours to book a place in a good portal, and you can start exporting already. And the market, they say, is hugely increasing and expanding. In 2017, through e-commerce, we sold about 38.7 billion worth of goods. In next 10 years, by 2026, this would rise to $200 billion. So this decade is actually the decade of e-commerce. So more and more you will find e-commerce being used. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be there right from day one. The process, the first step would be the order confirmation or a contract. This is important, and I just give a small flow chart that how you have to negotiate with the importer. You have to confirm the export deal. You have to receive an export order or contract, before you sell. Examine thoroughly and ask for any amendment, any contract, any international contract that you're signing. Be very sure, and therefore you must not hesitate in taking help of some consultant. Demand a letter of credit. That is important. Letter of credit is actually a letter issued by the banker of your buyer The bank of your buyer issues a letter of credit, which actually guarantees that if your goods reach the buyer and if the quality is okay, that bank guarantees payment to you. So letter of credit is extremely important. And so if you're a first-time exporter, or if you don't know your buyer very well, and you cannot rely upon some supply of goods without payments, then letter of credit is something that is important, because it safeguards both the buyer as well as the seller. Because the buyer ensures that they receive the goods, the quality is okay, and the bank automatically would release the payment to you. So it's a safety balance for the buyer as well as the seller. Second is procurement of goods. So once you decide what you want to export, you have to see that your procurement of those goods are very regular and in the right quality. Now you can buy from some traders around, those who manufacture around you. You can manufacture yourself. Third is drop shipping. Drop shipping is you can buy from somewhere and straight away supply to your international buyer. And then you can outsource also, because a lot of goods and services sometimes can be outsourced to someone else that supplies you the right quality and the right quantity, which you can further supply to your international buyers. So sourcing is extremely important for consistency in exports. Third very important thing is quality. You have to ensure quality. And the cost of poor quality sometimes can be phenomenal. Remember, suppose you export something from India, you export garments from India, and you export all the way to US. And what if they get rejected there because of some faulty stitching, or some faulty cutting, or some finishing not being there? Can you imagine the cost of poor quality? It's not just the rejection of those goods, but what if they demand that you take back the goods to India because they would not like to dump there? So the cost of poor quality in exports is the biggest factor that you must always focus on. Fourth is finance. You have to arrange finance for your exports. In fact, finance is required for any business. Even if it's a domestic business, you want to sell to the local market, you want to set up a school, you want to set up a college, whatever you want to do in life, you need some money, some budget for your business and funding. But for exports, fortunately, there are easier credit availability at lesser rates of interest. We call them broadly as a pre-shipment and post-shipment. Pre-shipment means that if you have a firm order from an international buyer, and if that international buyer has given you a letter of credit or a proper contract, you can take that to a bank, show them that, sir, you have a firm order from a company backed by letter of credit, and your banker can give you a pre-shipment or a packaging credit so that you can buy some material, pack and sell. So that's why it's called packaging credit. And second level is post-shipment, that once you export your goods, and suppose your payment you receive after 60 days, it can be discounted by a bank, and then you can go to your banker, give them the letter of credit, and show them the shipment details, and they can advance you payment up to or as good as 90% of the letter of credit amount. So this is these are two finance, and normally these are at lower rates of interest than the normal domestic banking that happens. I'll quickly take you through other the procurement of goods, the quality, financing, labeling. Insurance is very important. Even payments can be insured when you sell to an international buyer. Friends, fortunately, there's Corporation of India. It's called ECGC, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation of India, ECGC India. They guarantee your payments. So next time when you export, you can buy insurance from ECGC, and it ensures that if by any reason your international buyer does not pay you, your payments are insured by ECGC and they will pay you. So this is extremely important. Documentation is a very important part of exports. And this is something we have to understand. It's not just making one invoice and selling to anyone. So we have to understand that there are some principled documents, and I've given you a list of very brief, very principled documents that is there. Commercial invoice, packing list, certificate of inspection, certificate of insurance, bill of lading, certificate of origin, bill of exchange, shipment advice. But I'll not go into details of this today, but you must take help of some custom clearing agent or some consultant when you first time export with these documentations. And we must also understand that realization of export proceed is very important. Once you export something and you have to submit your documents to the bank, and then the payments must come to you in 90 days. Otherwise, there are very serious implications. And if for any reason you do not receive your payments from your international buyer, you have to report to your bank, and which further has to report to Reserve Bank of India. Idea is to be very fair and very transparent that all the payments that come through exports must come through the proper banking channels. And if for any reason any payment is stuck up, any material is rejected, or for any reason the payment is not coming, that also should be declared fairly and transparently to Reserve Bank of India. So preliminary stage, I mentioned pre-shipment stage, the shipment stage, and the post-shipment stage for when you have to present the documents to the bank, the realization of export proceeds is received, and after that is a very important step. There are huge incentives from Government of India to people who export, and so once you realize your payment, you can submit to the Government of India your documents, and government gives you even incentives for the exports that you've made. Some of these incentives are merchandise exports from India scheme, services exports from India scheme. Under these schemes, from 2% to 5%, even up to 7% in some cases, government issues you duty-free scripts. Now, this duty-free script is very important, that you can use this duty-free script next time you import something. So instead of paying custom duty, you can pay through this duty-free script. Or if you don't need to import something, you can even sell these scripts to other importers in the market. So these are freely tradable duty-free scripts. So from 2% to 5% of your export amounts free on board, the government incentivizes you. So there are other benefits which are mentioned at the DGFT website. Do visit there and aware of those incentives. There are some special incentives for micro, small, and medium enterprises. So especially if you are a startup and you are a micro enterprise or small enterprise, there are some marketing assistance schemes for you. For example, you can participate in any one international exhibition every year of your choice, and up to 6 lakh rupees can be reimbursed. So idea is to enthuse Indian MSMEs so that they also participate in international exhibitions, show their products. So one international exhibition up to 6 lakh rupees. Now these come from the state government. These also come from central government. So depending upon which state you are located in, your state also may have certain incentive schemes for you. Reimbursement of quality and testing equipment, reimbursement of freight. For example, if you have your exporting unit in Gurgaon, let us say, and but you have to export from some seaport. So all the way your goods have to be taken from, let's say, Gurgaon to all the way to Mumbai or to the seaport, wherever. So this road freight, this extra cartage that you bear, this can be reimbursed to you under the state government scheme. So different states also want to support exporting activities in their regions, and they also provide many incentives to the sector. For our guidance today, there are a number of export promotion councils, and I've given you a huge list. So if you are exporting cotton, then you must be part of the Cotton Textile Export Promotion Council. If you are in engineering, then you must be part of Engineering Export Promotion Council, because these are different councils set up by Ministry of Commerce, Government of India, and these councils give you a lot of information on international exhibition, a lot of information on international buyers. They organize exhibitions, they take a lot of delegations, they help you organize B2B meetings with international buyers. So whichever trade you want to be in, once you choose that, do also choose a council that can support you. Also, there are different institutions like, for example, IamSMEofIndia that supports a lot of SMEs in India. Similarly, FIO is another organization, Federation of Indian Export Organizations, where it's an organization where all the exporters are members. So many of these institutions and organizations, they support MSMEs and any exporter for that matter, and link them to the international buyers. Idea is to give them an ecosystem so that everybody grows. Can today's startup achieve in 5 years what took others 30? And my answer is yes. There's so much of enabling technology that is around, and with so many export promotion councils there, with organizations like ETRise, organizing this live webinar. So there's a lot of in this ecosystem. There's a lot of knowledge, a lot of support that is available around. Idea is that we have to just step out and start using these facilities so that one can grow faster. Because some of us learn from the mistakes of others. The rest of us have to be others. So if someone else took 30 years to achieve something in life, today's generation should achieve that in 5 years, because today is the time of faster growth, faster acceleration, better technology. All you need is skills for the future, skills which you actually never learned in school and college. But then these are the skills that today you have to acquire if you have to reach out to the world. Then the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. This is the Chinese proverb. So now is the time that you must plan when you will export, how you will export, what you will export, and take that first step today, because the future starts today. And today's webinar must make a difference for all of us. What's your plan then? Friends, I'm sure some of you have something in mind, and you just have to give it some steps. When I was a child, I was told a Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, it will. But later I realized that there's a new law today. If anything can go wrong, fix it. To hell with Murphy. Therefore, friends, you and I have to understand the nitty-gritties that is around. Thanks to the enabling environment given to us by ETRise. Let's take that first step and let's start exporting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chawla. That was very exhaustive, and I'm sure I am getting quite a lot of questions, and I'm sure some of it has, I would say most of it has already been, tackled in the presentation. But one question I'd pick up is, before that, I think you picked up a very important point where you said keep yourself updated, and export, I think, is one sector where you have to be very tuned to what's happening around you. We already run a section in ETRise called Trade, so that probably is a good channel for you to follow in terms of news and views. Coming back to the question, Kaushik asked, does participation in international trade shows help? If yes, what kind of help? What are some of the big trade shows in the world?
All right, Mr. Keshav, I would say there are hundreds of trade shows covering different verticals across the globe, from automobiles, auto mechanicas, Hanover Messe, the engineering shows, CeBIT that highlights the IT and IT-enabled services, agro businesses, agro machinery, garment fair, fashion fair, cosmetic fair, lifestyle fair. So there are different fairs across the globe. Some of the largest carnivals are held globally. You have to find, do some Google search, and you'll find huge number of choices. And as I would say, take that first step, register your company. And if your firm is a micro, small enterprise, there are different states and you can get in touch with different organizations like FIO and IamSMEofIndia, as I mentioned. And there's a support program. Internationally, if you participate in one exhibition, then up to 6 lakh rupees, the cost of the stall, the cost of air ticket for 2, and the cost of hotel stay for 2 can be reimbursed to you, up to 6 lakh rupees per year. So aware of this opportunity and reach out to the world, choose the trade fair of your destination, of your interest, your vertical, and there are support mechanisms. Also, get in touch with your export promotion council, whether it's engineering or gems and jewelry or whatever export promotion council you would like to be related to. They'll give you all this information, and they would also give you a calendar of their delegations, their B2B meetings, catalog exhibitions, different embassies, commercial consulates of India that are globally. We have commercial consulates in every embassy across Indian embassy which is in the world. So they organize catalog exhibitions. So if you send your catalogs to them, they would display your catalog and maybe you'll get inquiries. So there are different ways in reaching out to the world. Exhibition is one way and a very effective way, and also because there's a support mechanism, do away.
Right. There are similar questions, but Anuj Agarwal says export doesn't attract GST. How should exporters tackle the working capital crunch caused due to time taken to get GST refund claim? I don't know if that is still an issue, so I would.
No, it's not an issue now because under LUT, now goods can be exported without payment of any GST. So you just have to give a letter of undertaking, LUT, and you can export without paying GST within LUT.
Right. Dipankar has an interesting question. So I think we've till now talked about how do you get that customer. He says from your experience, once you have that customer, that international customer, how do you hold on to him?
Exactly the way you hold on to an Indian customer, I would say. The first thing is quality. The second very important thing is delivery. And third, of course, is the cost. QCD, quality, cost, delivery, these 3 things ensure that you will get repeat order from the customer. And if you continue to get these repeat orders, you will become a brand. So maintain and consistent quality so that your customer blindly trusts you. And timeline is extremely important. In India, we often, in fact, 90% of the time, we overshoot the deadlines. Someone will say, I'll deliver you by Saturday. Saturday means Monday. Monday means Friday. In international markets, the bookings are done to the minute. So every day is important. The day of dispatch, the day of time of arrival, the time of delivery, everything has to be timeline-based, calendar-based. So always remain quality conscious, productivity conscious. Also remember that your international buyer could also be exploring parallelly from China, parallelly from Vietnam, from Korea, from other low-cost countries. So you have to be extremely competitive also in the international markets.
Right. Venu Desari asked, I've applied patent in India. Can I export to the USA? And if other companies have USA patent for the same kind of product, can the USA patent company sue me or sue the Indian company? And he goes on to ask, which is the best shipping company to sell retail products worth 700 to the US?
Okay. The first thing is the patents, and I would say that when you file a patent in India, it is not globally applicable. So one has to file different patents to cover different regions and different countries. So if you want to file a patent in India and you also want to file your competition, fend off your competition in Europe, then you also have to file there. So you need to file in more than one country, so pay extra fee. And this, of course, is a patent cost. Fortunately, for Indian MSMEs, there is a scheme by Government of India where they subsidize your cost of filing of the patent. So aware of these small things. A lot of entrepreneurs don't even know some of the incentive programs that are around. So to enable Indian MSMEs file their patents, not only in India but globally. There is an incentive scheme by Government of India where they subsidize the cost. Having said this, if you are selling something to US, which already has a patent there, there could be issues, and especially if they find your, and if they have filed that patent in India as well. That is again important, because if till the time you are, they have a patent for US, but they haven't filed for India, then you can sell in India, you can sell elsewhere. So these laws are common to everyone. We must respect laws of the land where we are trying to sell. So if someone has a patent there, or a copyright there, or a trademark act there. I know of a specific case where a garment company in India, they launched a sportswear and they got a copyright and they registered their trademarks and they launched in India. But when they wanted to export in US, there was in Europe, there was a strong resistance, because they had a similar trademark registered in Europe, and that company fought against that. So there are times when one comes across these things, and I'm sure with the right counseling, with right IPR centers that are around, and with a lot of enablement and in this copyright acts, etc., I believe that you'll get the right advice.
Deepak Bajaj says, I think it's a follow-up question. How do you find buyers? How to find buyers going to international exhibit? Okay, so how do you find buyers? Is going to international exhibition the only way, or can we get buyers through some Indian agents that can help startups and SMEs?
Of course, both, every way. Exhibition is one way. It is a sure way of going to a market where you are expecting X number of visitors related only to that vertical who are expected to visit there. So you get a very focused one-to-one, face-to-face exposure in exhibitions. So in fact, I know of many SMEs, many companies that have only one methodology of marketing, and that is exhibition. They participate in 12 months, they participate in 12 exhibitions in different parts of the world, only grab orders and keep supplying. So their only marketing channel is exhibition. Having said this, nowadays, with a lot of search engines, with, as I said, Amazon, with Flipkart, with eBay, with so many other different engines, you can, sitting here, you can reach out to the world with their SMS, WhatsApp, website, YouTubes, Facebook. There's so many social media and also trade engines which are taking your products and your messages to the world. So it's become easier. That is why internet is an enabler and a leveler, that it can give anybody a chance to reach out to the world.
Right. So Sambhav Jain says, and something everyone would actually want to know, how do you think China-India trade will be affected in the next 1 to 2 years?
All right, see, China, I believe, is way, way ahead in terms of manufacturing in India. However, India is always trying to catch up with China. We are a bit late, but with our Make in India movement and other drives, we are trying to increase that momentum. Also, internationally, China, let me tell you, is no more a very low-cost country. Their productivity is very high, but the cost of living also there is phenomenally increasing in cities like Beijing, in Shanghai, in many other industrial areas. The costs are increasing very, very high, and therefore India still has a great chance. And so I believe that China would still be a leader in manufacturing, but India is gaining more and more advantage and more growth prospects and opportunities for future.
Krunal asks, does bank provide packaging credit finance? Is it secured or unsecured?
Okay, if you have a proper LC from a recognized bank, if your buyer has given you that LC, then that LC itself is fairly secured, and banks can give you without demanding any additional collateral security. In any case, in India, loans up to 1 crore rupees are given to entrepreneurs without collateral security, as per the latest norms laid down by the government. So entrepreneurs now have access to loans up to 1 crore rupees. Most of these credits can also be a non-fund. For example, LC opening or bank guarantee opening is normally a non-fund activity. But I believe that packaging credit can be given without collateral security.
Wonderful. So the next question is from Nishan Nivedi. He asks, how important is it to know about some cultural background of a country before looking to make an entry?
Extremely important. And as I told you before, for example, you want to export some garments or some jewelry to Italy or to Europe or to Spain. So you have to send as per their tastes and their demands. Whether they want colors, they want black and white, they want more grays, more browns, what designs, their class, their tastes could be very, very different. It's very important. Culturally, one must understand the nation that you're dealing with. There are countries where they want just to the point, very, very timeline struck and quality conscious and with less words but more action. When you're dealing with a country like Germany, for example, Japan, for example, so they are extremely particular on their written contracts. So they may take a lot of time in writing and signing those contracts. But once those are done, they stick to it in letter and spirit. While here sometimes I find that we talk too much, we very quickly agree verbally and very quickly sign NDAs and contracts. But then when it comes to implementation, sometimes we fail in implementation in terms of quality, costs, and delivery. So therefore, internationally remember that your commitment becomes your tomorrow. If you are honoring your commitments today, sometimes even at losses, your tomorrow would still hold brighter for you.
Right. Manmeet Singh says, if you have to look at Europe as a market, which are some countries in Europe that can be targeted? I am in the handloom sector.
Any country in Europe. In fact, let me tell you, Turkey itself is one of the largest garment exporters to the world. And Turkey is part of Europe. So, and that's next door. So the garments, in fact, India has lost its race in garment exports. And I have seen fall in Indian garments. Small country like Bangladesh today is doing phenomenally well, next only to China in terms of garment exports. So it's sometimes the entire culture, that carries you along. So I would believe that find your own markets in any country that you can. Europe, of course, has, it's very attractive, sounds attractive to us. But why have we never, or lesser, we are not exploring, why are not Latin American countries? Why not, countries that side? Why not African countries? So also look at some of the options where we haven't actually focused at. But for Europe, you can pick up any country. But let me tell you, they are extremely quality conscious in terms of garments. And they're also conscious of the fact whether there's a child labor engagement in your enterprise or your procurement or supply chain, whether you're dealing organic cottons or otherwise. So their norms are slightly stringent, their quality requirements are slightly higher, but then yes, they pay better than some parts of the world.
Right, so this will be the last question. I would have loved to go on, but we are really out of time. And I think it's a fitting question also in terms of what is the reputation of Indian exporters across the globe? For example, China is known for low-cost manufacturing and exporting. So this is a question by Preeti saying that how does the world view us?
Right. It's a very generic, very broad question. But let me tell you, I am as much a patriot as any of us are, and we love our country, and we would not say anything against ourselves. But let me be very honest and very frank that in global markets, in our commitments sometimes have failed in terms of quality, in terms of delivery. And therefore, internationally, we find that the foreign buyers are a bit more cautious when they deal with Indian suppliers. And therefore, they have their quality teams in India auditing teams in India. They have their own, even if you say you are OHSAS certified company, they would still send their team to your company to check whether you are complying with all the labor laws or not. Even if you are an ISO 14001 certified company, they may still send an inspection team to you just to ensure whether you are not damaging the environment. So my point is the fact that they still send their people to us for regular audits, it means that sometimes they don't exactly believe our certifications, and so therefore they won't keep a constant eye. Having said this, let me tell you, I have known exporters who are exporting for the last 30 years, 40 years, and year after year they are growing. So, and Indian exports also, as I just showed in my presentation, is consistently growing year after year since 1954. So therefore, it shows that our credibility in the world is increasing phenomenally. And internationally, buyers only say that in India, you can find anything, the right and the wrong, and the not very wrong or the not very right. So one has to find the strong supply chain partners. But the fact that we are growing, it shows that our credibility, our strength, our acceptability in international markets are growing. Our gems and jewelry, our pharmaceutical, which meets with some of the most stringent standards in the world, our automobile parts, they are seeing phenomenal rise. The fact that we are now providing satellite services to the world, the fact that we provide IT services to the world, all this is ensuring, it tells a great story that India has a credible story ahead. And you and I only have to be more systematic in our approach in terms of implementation. Don't take shortcuts, no shortcuts. Look at long-term business prospects. And once you establish your credibility, let me tell you, your buyers don't change you. Even if sometimes they get quotations of lower prices from other countries, if they rely upon you, they continue with you. And this is what we have seen in consistent growth of Indian exports.
Great. That's all the time we have. Thank you, Mr. Chawla, for taking us through such an elaborate process of exports. And I hope our readers have got some insights which they can work on. We'll obviously have more of such sessions. Again, thank you, Mr. Chawla.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pran. Thank you, ETRise. Thank you, all our viewers. And do get in touch with IamSMEofIndia.com in case you have any questions, of course, through ETRise as well. And we would also love to handhold some of you and support you in your ventures in times to come. Thank you.
Thank you.